Welcome to the Village podcast. I'm your host, Nicole. My why has always been to empower women and amplify the voices of mothers. We created the Village to share stories and ideas to embody the innate wisdom of a village, but on a modern day platform. I hope this podcast inspires, educates, and informs you and brings you the joy, love, and light you deserve. Welcome to the Village. Today we are talking to YouTube sensation, entrepreneur, designer, actress, and new mom, Amanda Steele. She has amassed over 5 million followers, loyal followers, over her career, and is now sharing her newest and most important role yet, motherhood. Welcome to the show. We're so excited to have you on the Village.
Thanks for having me. I'm so excited.
Yeah, I know a lot of people talk to you about your journey with being an entrepreneur, a fashion designer, a YouTube sensation. You really pioneered in what you did, and you were the first. You did a lot of firsts. But after having this really successful career, what made you make the decision to be a mom?
I feel like there wasn't too much thought gone into it really, but I just kind of had this feeling where I felt like I've done everything that I wanted to do, pretty much. I'm not finished, but I felt very accomplished in my life, and I felt like I had everything I could ever want except for a baby. So I kind of had some baby fever for a while. I was like, that's the one thing I'm missing. And then just everything aligned, and I met my beautiful boyfriend, partner, father of my child now. And it was just sparks and amazing, and we just fell in love at first sight, and we were crazy, and we were like, we want a baby, let's do it. Sounds so crazy, and it totally is, but it just felt right. And especially having the baby now, it was right. You know?
I think when you know, right? Mm-hmm. It's like this magical kind of chemistry just happens. It's like cellular.
Yeah. And I look at her, and I, when she was first born, and I'm looking at her, I'm like, it was always supposed to be you. It was perfect.
And you feel that. You really feel that energy between the two of you and what you've created. How old were you at the time?
Of birth?
Of when you decided to get pregnant?
23, right? Yeah.
23, which 23. Is in this day and age is quite young, right? Mm-hmm. Were your friends, did you have friends around you guys that were, no?
I have friends now that are moms because I am a mom. Yeah. But before I didn't ever think of it being something that was necessary for me to have. Yeah. Which now I feel like it is important to have mom friends. But before I didn't care because I always had been kind of doing stuff ahead of my friends and even just my peers, just because of the life I've lived. Yeah. I've always been doing the next thing. And so I was just I'm going to do the baby thing first out of all of us.
You're I'm pioneering in everything else. I'm going to pioneer for my community too. I love that. How was your pregnancy journey itself?
I loved being pregnant. I actually did not know I was pregnant until 12 weeks.
Okay.
Crazy, which we were kind of trying, but I don't know why. We were traveling a lot. I had lost my period. So I was like, oh, I can't even get pregnant. I don't have a period, but the pregnancy tests were negative. So,
wow.
So we're like, oh, it doesn't even matter. I can't even get pregnant.
Wow.
And then
so is that something that had happened to you before, losing your period?
No, I'd never lost my period ever before in my life. Yeah. And it happened this time that I got pregnant. And so I took multiple pregnancy tests. They were all negative. And at some point it was it's pretty sad for me to keep doing that because I wanted to be pregnant. Yeah. So I just kind of gave up. And so that's why it went so long with me not knowing that I was pregnant, because there were so many negatives that I was I didn't want to be sad all over again to take another one. Yeah. Right. Now looking back, I'm oh, that was pregnancy symptoms. Yeah. But however it worked out, it happened that way for a reason. Yeah. I wish that I knew earlier, but she's perfect.
How many pregnancy tests were you taking? When you did it the first time, so you skipped your period, you're okay, maybe I'm pregnant. So you go get a pregnancy test. Did you just buy one box?
I think I got like a box of 2 first. Yeah. He was, I think, at a job in a different state, and I was FaceTiming him, and I think it was like, got one of those early tests like 6 days before or something. Yeah. So it was kind of early. So I was like, oh, okay, like maybe that's why it's negative. Yeah. And then like a week later, we did one. We were in Miami staying there, and I just like kept buying them, like, because I was like, there's no way, like my period needs to come this week. So just all throughout the week, kept buying them. And
all different brands.
Yeah, all different brands. So I wasn't pregnant at that time because I actually had gone back to LA and I got my boobs done. And you can't be pregnant when you like have surgery, get your boobs done, and they make you take a pregnancy test. And so I was like, if I'm not pregnant in this one, then, you know,
I'm just pregnant.
Yeah, I'm not pregnant. I just lost my period, and I guess I can't get pregnant right now.
Yeah.
So took that pregnancy test with the doctor and was not pregnant.
Yeah.
I guess I conceived like 2 weeks after.
Right. Yeah. Wow. That journey in itself is just, because I remember when I was trying to get pregnant, like I had a miscarriage and it was very devastating for my husband and I. So then we were like, I was really like, I really want to have a baby. So we tried for the first time. And I remember doing the test and they kept saying no. And I was like, but I feel weird. And it just, I don't know, it took a really long time for the test to show up as yes. When did you know? So you had your surgery.
All of this time that it was a possibility that I could be pregnant, not using protection. They were all negative tests. And then, so then it was like 2 weeks after, because I know the dates and lines up with the birth. We went to Panama for vacation, and like that's when it happened. But I remember
that's when you conceived.
Yeah. I was like, that's just so crazy, because that moment I was truly like, I can't get pregnant. Like all of these negative pregnancy tests, like what are the chances, and then that's when it happened.
You've always been very, front facing with your audience. And on this journey, how did you feel? Was there a moment where you were like, am I going to share this with my audience? Or did you guys talk about that?
We did have conversations about showing her face. Yeah. And I wasn't sure how I felt about it until, she came. And then in the beginning, definitely wanted to like be private, and I'm nervous. Like I've been on the internet as a kid. Yeah. I've been on the internet for a long time. I've seen really bad, nasty things and nasty people. So I wanted to protect her from that. But she was just my entire life, every second of every day. Sure. And I was like, I can't make any other videos or any other content. Yeah. Unless I include her a little bit, because that's my life and I share my life. And also I think she's just the cutest thing ever. So I want to post her.
For sure. And also like, I think, we need to spread light in the world too, right? So there are a lot of negative things out there on the internet, and it's like, there has to be a balance. Mm-hmm. So there has to be some light. So it's beautiful. I mean, your daughter is like an angel. She looks like you.
She is.
And how was the birth of your daughter, Gaia?
It was very traumatic. Definitely not what I expected at all. So the whole story, we had an emergency C-section. She wasn't breathing for 3 minutes. Was taken straight to the NICU, was in the NICU for 6 days, did cold therapy. For me, during the C-section, I felt everything, screaming, being like, put me out. It was definitely not what I expected, and it was very tough. But luckily, she's good. We don't know 100%, like what, there's still things that could pop up. Holds. Yeah, until I think she's like 2. We like keep an eye on her. But she's developing like on track, and she's hitting all her milestones. And so I'm really thankful for that.
Yeah. So like that day that you went into labor, what were you guys... Like, what was your mood in the morning, or like what happened before you even got to the hospital?
So I had been in a lot of pain for like that whole week. Yeah. And I really felt like there was something wrong because, I was just in so much pain. And
where were you feeling pain?
First, it was in my back. I had really bad back pain. I went to the hospital for that because I was like, throwing up from the pain. They treated me like with pain meds, and then they sent me home, even though I was like 39 weeks. I was like, I think I need to be induced. Like, I need to have this baby now because
that's what you thought.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
I thought that because I didn't want to leave the hospital too. They were going to send me home and I was in so much pain. So you felt safe
in the hospital at that point. You were like, this is where I'm meant to be right now. Instinctively.
Yes. And like my mom and my partner were there, and they could tell you that when they told me that they were sending me home, like I had like a full panic attack and was like crying because I was like, this is not right.
Yeah.
And they're like, well, just call your doctor and they'll schedule you for an induction. And that was one of the 2 times I was sent home by the doctors.
One of the 2 times?
Yeah. So I was in pain for like this whole week. I knew that something was not right. So when I did actually go into labor, it was finally a different kind of pain where like it would come and then it would go. So I was like, okay, now I'm actually in labor. But I feel like it was so much harder because I was in continuous pain. It wasn't like labor just kind of started and it was like, 10 minutes apart, the contractions. Like when I started feeling them and realized I had to go to the hospital, they were 2 to 3 minutes apart. My contractions, and really strong, like out of nowhere.
Yeah. And so the second time you got sent home, was it the same situation as the first?
The first time I had thought that I broke my water like a little bit.
Yeah.
I just saw like more liquid than normal, but it wasn't like a lot.
Gushing like on the movies.
But I knew that it could be like kind of like poking like a dribble. It could be like that. So I went in just to check. And then they sent me home. They said your water wasn't broken.
Yeah.
But how things went with the birth, it makes me wonder, and it makes me feel like maybe it did actually break at that point because I had an infection.
Right.
And that will take some time to develop. So if they're doing like cervix checks on you, and your water's broken, then that's how you can get an infection.
Yes.
So that's kind of how I feel.
That's what you feel.
This happened.
Yeah, right. Is there any way to like get clarity on that at this point? Like, can you go and talk to your doctors or the doctors that delivered? Is there any way that you can go back and find out?
We've tried to ask like all the questions. And they don't really like have much for us. I think that they said the reason why this happened to the baby was the infection. They don't tell me how I got the infection.
Interesting.
And the feeling of the cutting, that part of the birth.
Oh my gosh.
They basically, I was on so many drugs after this, and I'm out of it. I am partly traumatized, partly adrenaline getting through this, just thankful that my baby is breathing and is okay, that I wasn't stressing too much about it. I was just like loopy, like, oh my God, that was crazy. I felt everything. And then one of the nurses came to us in the NICU and came to me and said, I wanted to check in on you because I've never heard someone scream like that during a C-section. And I was like, yeah, I could.
Oh my gosh.
I could feel everything. And because she was like, I was holding your hand and like, I thought you were going to break my hand. And I was like, yeah, I could feel everything. And she's like, the doctor told me that he tested on you. So like they internally obviously talked about why I was in so much pain. And the doctor just being like, oh, I tapped and I asked. But
oh my gosh.
He never asked me a question. This is my first baby. First C-section, wasn't planning for it. So I don't know what the procedure is. If, they give you, I don't know how they numb you. I just knew when they were rolling me to that C-section, I was like, I can feel my legs and I know they're about to just cut me open like right away. So I'm just like freaking out, hoping they're going to do what they're supposed to do and like give me enough medication or put me out if you have to.
This episode is brought to you by Bumpsuit, the modern company redefining maternity and beyond. As a mom of 3, I've tried every single baby carrier on the market, and at Bumpsuit, we came up with the best baby carrier out there. We took all the problems from the baby carriers we loved and we solved them in this one baby carrier called the Armadillo. The Armadillo has a lot of different pockets for your phone, your keys. It even has a space for your water bottle to hang from. It has a weather cover. It's got a back lumbar for that support, especially after giving birth. It is great for newborns up until, my 3.5-year-old still asks for it. Go to bumpsuit.co. That's bumpsuit.co. Use the code THEVILLAGE20 for 20% off your entire order and get an Armadillo baby carrier. Do yourself a favor. Leading up to going into the hospital for the first time, right? So you go to the hospital. What's the protocol? Like you have your dream birth plan, which I've heard you talk about. You really wanted to document this and have it be a special memory. You had this amazing pregnancy. You go into the hospital. You're having contractions minutes apart. Mm-hmm. So at that point, they give you an epidural, right? Mm-hmm. Do you know how many centimeters dilated you are?
I was only 1 centimeter dilated.
Right.
Which, I don't get what was happening with my body. Maybe it feels like she should have came earlier. She should have got out earlier, because I don't know why all of a sudden it just goes 2 to 3 minutes. And it was like the worst pain I've felt in my life, Yeah. So once we finally get to the hospital, they're like, so you're ready for an epidural now? And I'm like, absolutely. Like, yes. I thought that they would maybe give me like morphine first, just to like relax me. And then once we got like further along, then they would give me an epidural. But they were just like, do you want it now? Are you ready for it? And like, when you're in that much pain, I'm like, yes. So I got the epidural at 1 centimeter.
Yeah. How dilated did you get?
Before the C-section?
Yeah.
I got to 7 centimeters.
You got to 7. And how long did it take to get to 7?
Till 5 p.m. next day.
Wow. So you were laboring for a long time. Before C-section?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we were almost there. Like when everyone rushed in to take me to the C-section, they were preparing the bed. No one was really paying attention to me because they're like, baby's coming. We're about to push. And then it was all chaotic.
And there was no signs of infection?
Well, we realized that there was something wrong during the labor, because I felt like burning like in my legs.
Yeah.
And then they were taking my temperature, and I had a temperature. I was a little bit feverish, but I wasn't 100%, like I hadn't hit that number of official fever. If I hit the fever temperature, then they'll do something about it.
Yeah. And I know you talk about like you just said, I felt burning in my legs. Mm-hmm. So you have an epidural at this point and you're feeling burning in your legs. So you're feeling everything. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. There was like hot packs, cool packs, and I don't know which one it was. Maybe it was a cold pack I had in between my legs for whatever reason it was hurting, or had in between my legs. And I remember saying to my mom, like, can you take the cold pack out? It's too cold. It's burning me. And then she goes, and then she was like, oh, it's not in there anymore. So like my legs were just like burning, and no one could tell me why. And I think a lot of the doctors like just thought I was being dramatic.
Yeah, right. Okay.
Because I was in so much pain, like only a little bit dilated. Like they thought I was just being dramatic, it feels.
Yeah.
Also, I feel like the doctors had way too much trust in me because I'm so young and healthy and had a great pregnancy, that they kind of were just like, oh, she's like, this is going to come a breeze. That's all that anyone told me. All the doctors told me, like, it's going to be so easy. You got this.
Yeah. Wow. When it comes to like labor and going to the hospital, were you doing any kind of like research into what kind of pain management you wanted to do? Were you guys doing any classes together? Well, like what kind of knowledge were you like acquiring on this journey?
I wasn't doing much really. I was doing like eating the dates and evening primrose oil and stuff like that. I just knew, I was like, I'm going to go in there and I'm going to get whatever drugs they offer me. Like that was my plan. My plan was not to suffer at all. And I heard that once you get the epidural, you can just like fall asleep or you're just chilling and it's fun. Like, that's what my plan was. And that was a mistake because, I still was in a lot of pain and I didn't know how to manage it. Yeah.
I mean, well, it's promoted that that's what happens, right? Like you see it on the movies, people on TikTok and Instagram. It's like, oh yeah, this is my birth. But there are so many like variables, right? Mm-hmm. And it's like we don't really get taught to really just like check in with every story and all the possibilities and really kind of just know what can happen. It's like we're not taught that, I think.
Yeah. And I don't know why. I feel like I think I was just so trusting. My mom never had an epidural. She had both of us, me and my sister, natural, but she was supportive of me getting the epidural.
She went natural in the hospital?
Yeah.
Wow.
So now that I think about that, I'm like, I wonder why, because she said that she didn't get the epidural because she's a lawyer and she's a malpractice lawyer. So she didn't get the epidural because she heard too many stories and was like freaked out. So now I'm thinking like, why didn't you tell me? But I think I didn't ask any advice on this. I didn't ask anyone, should I get the epidural or not? Like, I was just like, this is what I'm going to do. Yeah.
And this is your story and your journey. But I wonder, because I know like since probably she had her baby, there's just so much information. And as you said, like she probably also saw women getting epidurals now and it being fine. Mm-hmm. So I think like all of it is like all of the options are great. Home birth, epidural, no epidural, natural birth, just like really learning how to find out what's best for us. And as you said, like standing up for what we intuitively feel. Mm-hmm. You felt like something was wrong, but a doctor can overrule what you're saying.
Yeah. And when they sent me home and I talked to my doctor about inducing me, she calls me and she goes, so I can't induce you because there's no beds at the hospital. And so that made me think like, oh, they sent me home last night because they don't have enough room for me. So kind of that was the first thing where it was like they didn't care about me and my well-being and what might be best for my body.
Yeah.
It was about the hospital's full. You're not progressing, so you're going to go home.
Yeah. And did they check your baby's heartbeat and everything? Mm-hmm. Yeah. And your vital signs. So when you were like laboring, at what point did it turn?
The whole time they were turning me side to side because they were like, oh, the baby doesn't like this side. Like when you're on this side, the heart rate drops a little bit. So that was the beginning of it where they were like turning me around.
Was that the side that your leg was burning as well? Or was it? It was.
Yeah, actually. Yeah. So that was the first. And then there was one time they were like, the heart rate is dropping. But us in the room, like me, my mom, Francisco, my partner, we're watching that like heart rate monitor like the whole time.
Yeah.
So we're looking very close, but there would be times where it's going low and we're like, hey, is it okay? They're like, it's okay. There was one time, nope, they pressed the button. Everyone rushes in for a C-section. I'm like freaking out. And then they got the heart rate back up. So they're like, oh, it's fine. They let me go back.
Yeah. They rush you out of the room and then you go back into the room.
They started to. And then they were like, okay, the heart rate came back. We're fine. And one of the doctors says to me, like, you know, this usually happens at least once in every birth.
Yeah.
So I'm like, okay, that's normal.
Yeah.
I'm very trusting.
Yeah.
And then a couple hours later, it happened again. And the heart rate was not coming back. So they took me to C-section.
Wow. How are you feeling like emotionally at this point?
I was just freaking out. Like, I think I started like sobbing because I was so scared.
Yeah.
Because I wasn't expecting this at all. And I don't know why it would happen. And you could tell that something serious was happening by how people were reacting and how many people were there. And then I just remember one of the nurses saying like, you need to like relax for your baby because your baby needs to breathe. And then I'm just freaking out more because I'm like, this is going to be my fault now.
Wow. Yeah. You need to relax for your baby because your baby needs to breathe. That's a really intense thing to hear. Mm-hmm. So then you're not numb. You can feel your legs. You're going in for a C-section. Is the doctor asking you like? He
does testing 1, 2, 3 with like a tool on my belly, and I felt it, but you know, I've never experienced this. I didn't know what to expect. I don't know was that supposed to be a question?
Yeah. You know, like, am I meant to be
like testing 1, 2, 3, like, is that wasn't a question. I don't know. Was I supposed to feel it? Were you testing something for yourself?
Yeah.
Like, and it's crazy that he had told the nurse that he asked me if I felt it or not, because that's not true, because I did feel it. And I think if I said anything, I said no, 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 as in like, do not do this right now.
Yeah.
But, you know, I didn't know what to expect. I didn't know how anything went. I just had to be there, and it happened.
And then he cut into you. Mm-hmm. I remember I've heard you talk about feeling every single layer of your skin being cut open. So
originally it felt like it was going like a saw, like all the way across, because that's just what my brain could imagine what was happening. But then like later I look at a video of like what happens in a C-section. And I was like, oh, each one was each layer.
Wow.
Yeah.
Do you think that the epidural like didn't work on you? Because I've heard it doesn't work on some people.
I believe so. Like, I think it didn't work on me because they had to come give me more.
Yeah. And did that work?
They gave me more, and I still felt the C-section. So I think that too, where I maybe gave them the benefit of the doubt in that situation of cutting me open without enough medication, because they thought I had enough.
Yeah.
But I did express to them multiple times that it wasn't enough, that I could feel my legs. There was a anesthesiologist, one of them, that came in because one of the nurses told me, you know, you can click the button for more if you need more. But if you click it more than a few times, then just like let us know. We'll get the anesthesiologist in here and we can give you some more.
Yeah.
So I told them that. I said, it's not working. Like, I need to get more. And the girl comes in and says, I can't take away your pain completely.
Okay.
I'm like, okay, I was just doing what I was told to.
Yes, it sounds like a very confusing journey, especially like for someone that's doing this for the first time as well. And did you ever talk to your doctor about like, you know, this post baby as well? Like these feelings and events post baby?
Yes, me and my partner saw my doctor. My doctor wasn't there for the delivery. So
who was there?
Whoever was there.
Not your doctor.
Not my doctor.
A fill-in doctor. Mm-hmm. Got you.
Yeah.
So had you met this doctor before? No. And so what is your doctor's opinion about what happened?
From what I read from her, I think that she's also traumatized because I think she feels very bad that this happened to me, her patient, because it shouldn't have. And everything was so smooth and was such a perfect pregnancy. I don't know if maybe they didn't just believe that everything was going to go perfect and easy and fine. Like, people would have been there for me more. Yeah. Or maybe she would have given me more advice. And she didn't do that because everyone's just like, you're going to do this a breeze. You're so young. This is why we have babies young, you know? Yeah. Blah, blah, blah. But yeah, I definitely feel like she is a little bit traumatized from the situation too.
Yeah. So what was the situation that she couldn't be there?
So I know that the doctors like come in when it's time to push.
Yeah.
But she had visited at 5 centimeters.
Yeah.
I think that when the first time I almost went to a C-section, she was called and they said, you need to come now because we'll have to do the C-section. And she was like on her way.
Yeah.
But on her way for like so many hours before I actually had to have the C-section. And so I also wonder if, you know, she showed up after that first call.
Yeah.
Things would have been different. My partner was the one that I'm thankful for now looking back, because like I wasn't there. I was just like, oh, it's fine. Everything's fine. Like, I have my baby. It's okay. Like, don't worry about it. But my partner is like asking all the questions, being like, this is wrong. Like, doctor, why were you not there?
Yeah.
You know, and this is like especially a concierge doctor.
Was in the hospital. Like,
I mean, she could have been at her office that's like nearby, or, you know.
Right. You just don't know. And did you ever get a chance to speak to the doctor that delivered Gaia? afterwards?
No, and they wouldn't let us. I was never really seeking out these questions until about like now.
Yeah.
It's been...
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. It took a while for me to really be like, this
how old is she now?
4 months.
4 months. This is like totally brand new.
Yeah. But my partner, before we left the hospital, was demanding, I want to get every single paper.
Yeah.
I need to know what happened. Let me talk to this doctor. Let me talk to this doctor. And I know for the doctor that delivered, we weren't able to talk to him, just like his assistant or something.
Wow. So they deliver Gaia and she's not breathing for 3 minutes. What happens at this point?
So when she's out, I obviously don't hear crying. I'm crying, screaming. My partner finally got to enter the room. They forgot about him. They went into the room to get something and were like, oh my gosh, the baby's out. Why are you not in there? So he's throwing his clothes off, putting the things on, running into the room. He comes in, sees me open, the baby white, me like terrified. He told me everything was okay, even though it wasn't. And I was screaming so much that the doctor said, can you put her out? And I said, please put me to sleep. Like, I can't do it. And then
you were just like, you'd reached your like peak, like make everything go away kind of thing. So you get put out, and then what happens at that point?
So she was, they got her to breathe, and then they took her to the NICU, and then she had to start like hypothermic therapy for her brain.
And what is that for people that don't know?
Basically, there's like a cooling mat that they leave the baby in for 3 days. And they have to bring the baby's body temperature down to a really low temperature to protect the brain. It puts it in like a state of like, it kind of like stops any brain activity or from it, just kind of like keeps it there so it can heal slowly.
Yeah.
I don't know too much too. This is all like so a blur. Yeah. But I know that she was cold and it was so sad to see her that way. I couldn't touch her.
I heard you talk about like she was so cold she was screaming.
No, her eyelids were flipping inside out.
Yeah.
She was crying so hard.
She was laying there like naked with a diaper on kind of thing on a cold pad.
With tubes.
Yeah.
Like everything. I was just like, I don't even know who it was. There were so many people in and out of there, but someone was saying like, oh, is that genetic to have extra skin on your eyes?
Yeah.
Because her eyelids were flipping inside out. And I'm like, no, like not really. And now that I have her at home normal, like she doesn't do that.
Yeah.
It was just like so much tensing.
Yeah.
So they had to give her morphine every once in a while to put her out of the pain.
Wow. And so were you able to see her at this point?
Yeah, I was able to. I mean, when I came out of it, the first time I met her in real life, like I don't remember it that much.
Yeah.
I was so on drugs still.
Yeah.
It was so weird because I have one photo that I took of that time, and it's like me way back and like me taking a photo of my partner and her. Yeah. And I was like, I don't know why I wasn't even like there. Like I was so out of it.
Yeah.
But
totally.
Yeah. So I every day could at any time go in there and like I can maybe like put my fingers on her. We couldn't like put too much body heat on her to raise her body temperature. That's why I couldn't pick her up or hold her.
Wow. I heard like during this process, I mean, to go through all of that trauma is so intense. And then to have to like come out of that and being on drugs is like, especially post-birth, like you're also feeling pain and you're on drugs. And I heard during this time you managed to like have the strength to start your pumping routine. And you've got your baby in the NICU and how was that experience for you?
I couldn't as easily like get up and go to the NICU and hang out with her and spend time with her because I just had a C-section and it was hard for me to move around. So I knew the only thing that I could do was to work on my milk for her.
Yeah.
So, you know, I wasn't taking care of a baby. I wasn't holding her or practicing how to nurse with her. So the best I could do was to get my milk in to feed her also. There was, at some point they were feeding her through a tube, my breast milk. But in the very beginning, we were using little cotton swabs to put it in her mouth. So that was a really special thing that I got to do during that time.
Yeah, it's like the only thing that you could do to nurture your baby, even away from her. I was like, what a badass goddess woman when I heard that.
Thanks.
Because, you know, it's like, that's hard in itself, the pumping. And when your milk comes in, it's so painful. No one really talks about that too. It's like you're tender and your body is just like this whole new thing, and the C-section on top and then the emotional, it's like, it must have been really tough.
Yeah, but the pumping and the milk made me happy.
Yeah.
It made me, like, I was so proud of it. I was so proud of like each day it was getting bigger and bigger. And then my boyfriend, every single time that I would pump something, even if it's, you know, this little bit that comes in with colostrum, would go up there and take it to them at the NICU and see the baby. So every 2 to 3 hours, he was up running the milk back and forth. And
that's so cute. You guys are so cute. So there's like a few technical questions I want to ask about because I heard you talk about, you know, so she goes to the NICU and she has this hypothermic treatment. And so how many days is she in the NICU? And I heard you talk about her getting an MRI to be released. Did they also take an MRI beforehand? Was there any like thing to compare it to? Or is it just like they do the treatment first and then they see how the brain is?
I think they might have done an ultrasound in the beginning on her. But the MRI was at the end. Basically, I learned all this information at like our follow-up appointment we just had like last week with the neurologist. They showed us the MRI for the first time we've ever seen it. Basically, the MRI was, if they take the photo of the brain and you see one part light up or this specific part light up, or if this is dark here, then they would know that that means there was brain damage. So after the treatment and then they do the MRI, they don't see anything come up. So then she was able to go. She was able to go home.
And to clarify, the reason why she had this therapy is because she wasn't breathing for 3 minutes.
Yeah.
So when a baby's not breathing for 3 minutes, that's a signal that it could cause brain damage. So in this situation, babies go do hypothermic treatment, and then depending on how they're performing during the treatment, or is it is 3 days like the normal?
I think 3 days is normal because I've seen other moms on TikTok kind of talk about their experience, and even the ones that are severe, like very severe. They said 3 days. So
3 days, and then they do the MRI. Baby's good. Guy is not showing signs of brain damage. So you get to go home that day?
Yeah, on day 6.
Day 6, which is, I mean, I know the NICU as well. It's like a whole world of, it just makes you really grateful to be able to take your baby home. During that time.
Yeah, it was so hard. I remember I thought we were going to bring her home the night before we actually were able to. And then they're like, no, we have to wait till the morning. Because we also had to work with an occupational therapist to make sure that she could eat, she can swallow, she moves normally. So she had to be cleared for like a bunch of different things before she went home.
Yeah. Wow. You weren't able to do skin to skin. Was your partner able to do it with her, or no? It was straight into the, What are your thoughts on skin to skin? Do you think it's like a really important thing to do, or after experiencing this now?
I always wonder how it would, like, if it would be different at all if I got to have skin to skin, because that's all you hear before you give birth. Like skin to skin, as soon as they're born, is the most important thing. Luckily for me, I didn't feel any less bonded with my baby. And I felt really grateful, like, and so bonded with her immediately. Because I know some moms, even when they have the baby and get the baby, they don't feel the bond like immediately. So even without having that, I felt so close to her, which was great. But I think over time, I see other moms with newborns and like how their newborn is so attached to their body basically in those first like few weeks. Where like they just want to be on mom. And I feel like with my baby, it wasn't as intense in that way because she spent her first 6 days of life basically alone laying on a table.
I mean, it is like all of these kind of ideal situations. It doesn't change like the love that you have and the bond. It's like, I even talk to some friends that can't have babies and I'm like, it's so awesome to be pregnant. It's so awesome to have your baby. It's so awesome to do skin to skin. If you can breastfeed, it's awesome. If not, it's still awesome. Even if it's not your baby, like the love can develop at any point the same way, even more. So it's like, I don't, even though you don't get to experience all the things that are in the dream book of, it's like your story and your bond and your journey with your daughter, it's always going to be beautiful and bonded. And each day you can like add to that. I love my kids more and more every day. And I'm like, you know, even if they didn't come from me, it's like, love is love, right? Did they ever tell you, like, I know that since having this happen, you've seen a lot of moms on TikToks that go through the hypothermic treatment. Do you know how common this is?
It's not very common because they only have that treatment in a few hospitals too.
Wow.
So if we were at a different hospital that didn't have that treatment there, we would have to transport the baby to another hospital to get it.
Wow.
So, I mean, I've seen a few people on TikTok, so I know that it is out there and it happens. But I think it's the best treatment option for sure. I'm thankful for it because I think it's possible that she could have been fine, but it's not worth the risk. You know, if she's not breathing for 3 minutes, then that's usually a sign that something has happened to the brain, like at that point.
So post this experience, I was watching your YouTube channel and you sharing this experience. And I then went to the comment section and I saw everyone writing, "This is malpractice. I'm so sorry this happened to you. This is not okay." Like, how did were you expecting that reaction from your fans?
I don't know what I was expecting. I think that definitely people would be like, "Oh my gosh, that's crazy." I don't think I was expecting that so many people were going to be like, "I know that this is not okay." And so many people agree. Like, it was not a question that like something happened here that didn't need to happen. So that made me feel very validated too, because even with my memory of the pain of the C-section, it was so traumatic and like so crazy that when I was in the moment, I told myself, I was reminding myself, this is what you're feeling. Like, you actually feel this, because I felt like I was going to go under, or I was going to pass out, or I didn't want to forget that this happened to me. So I couldn't like tell you from my memory now, like of that moment, how it felt actually. What I'm talking about is like what I reminded myself while I was in the moment to not forget.
Do you feel like at this point you're gonna take any action with the idea of the malpractice?
My partner is working on it. There's a lawyer that said that they would take the case. And that they've dealt with the hospital a lot.
Wow.
But it's still, I'm still healing and I'm still dealing with the postpartum and
And how is that? How is like postpartum, like you have like layers upon layers upon layers of stuff going on, because postpartum in itself is like a thing. And how are you dealing with that at this point?
Right after she came home, I was like, everything's fine. Everything's perfect. It was just adrenaline. And then it was maybe like after the month, I felt like really, really depressed. And I didn't know why, I was just like, this is normal, but like, it really sucks. Like, why is it so much worse than I could have ever imagined? And then more to today, I now have the realization and understanding that my postpartum experience was extra hard because of the trauma.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, you look amazing.
Thank you.
You're so like, your energy is so beautiful. I feel like in Western culture, the postpartum, which we consider the 4th trimester, is not really looked at emotionally, physically, from a community standpoint. Like the mother needs so much and we're not really like supported. We're so isolated.
Yeah. I texted my doctor who was supposed to deliver my baby. I was like, hi, could you refer me to a therapist for postpartum? Yeah. And she sent me one, but was out of network, like crazy expensive, you know? And then I'm trying to find therapists and it's like, some people are not a good match. And it's kind of crazy how like even asking my doctor, who does feel so bad about what had happened to me, like didn't help me out like a little bit more to get help. Yeah. And also like just with everything in life, like by month 2, for some reason, everyone expects you to just be normal and acting normal and no longer checking in on like on you or like doing extra helpful things. And so it does feel really lonely. Like once all of that extra attention just like stops at some point.
One thing that I found to be the most valuable thing, and it's so rare, but after I had my baby, I gifted myself. My gift to myself was a postpartum Ayurvedic doula. So it's not even, a lot of people get a doula for birth, but a postpartum doula, they come to your house every day. They do all of your laundry. They give you a hot oil massage to stimulate the lymph system, a sitz bath, a herbal shower, and they cook food for you that helps your womb retract for your whole family. They come for like a couple hours, 3 to 4 hours a day. And it's like, you can get them for as long as you want or as short as you want. And like, that is such a gift. And I feel like I needed that. I think all women need that, but it's not implemented. It's like, you have the baby and then you take the baby home. And then it's like, nobody really cares about what happens after that. And like, there's no emphasis on the 4th trimester.
I think the whole thing surrounding postpartum, it's hard, and it's hard for us all. And we don't really want to admit it, We could be really low and not feeling like we're thriving as much as we thought we would, or it's very hard. And you don't really see a lot of other moms or moms that like you specifically look up to talk about this stuff, or even share that like any part of their motherhood is imperfect. Yeah. So I totally get, because I'm like, why are people not talking about this? But then I'm like, I should be talking about it. But also I feel a little bit of a failure if I tell the world that I'm not doing the best, Yeah.
Yeah. But it's like, all of this is so normal. Like we have good and bad days. We feel really, really low and really, really high at different points in our life. Like a boy that is like really great to look at is like, it's seasons, and some seasons last years. You could have a really bad winter that lasts like 10 years. Postpartum is it's the hardest season to go through as a woman. You know, you're having a rebirth. It's like the baby's born, but also you're reborn. And you really have to kind of like acknowledge that, you know, you're now just not you. It's like you're a servant to a little being that needs a lot.
Mm-hmm.
So you're waking up, you know, 3 to 4 times a night. You're breastfeeding, like that relationship with your body. Yeah. You're like a milkmaid, and like nobody talks about that. You're wearing a diaper. You know, your body is complete jelly. You have no core strength. You're waking up, sitting up in the middle of the night with no core strength. Feeding a baby. There's like mastitis that can come about, baby blues, postpartum depression, in some cases psychosis, which is also not talked about. And then really just redefining your life. It's a really hard period. And that's why we're doing this podcast, is to really talk about this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So we're not alone in this. And I really commend you for being here today and like sharing this story. And from like mother to mother that's been in a hard situation myself, it does get so much better. I was petrified to have another baby, and I fell pregnant, and I was like traumatized. I was like, I can't do this. I freaked out immediately because it was unplanned. And that second baby for me was very healing. It literally healed the trauma from the first. So do you think in the future, is it something that you envision? Are you scared of having another baby?
I would love another baby. I always say, even though what happened is terrible and it shouldn't have happened, I would still do it like over again to have my baby.
Yeah.
And I don't know what it is. I hear this of like you basically black out, you forget like the first months or whatever, so that you want to have another baby.
Yeah.
But I even remember like being there in the deepest part, like no sleep, and then looking at her and being like, I would do it. Like, I will have another baby like now, you know?
Yeah.
But I have physical trauma that I don't know when I could like safely have another baby.
Yeah. When you say like safely, is there still stuff you're experiencing now? Are you on any kind of treatments or anything now?
I started to notice like if I would step quickly, like if I open my legs too much, it would feel like a pulling.
Yeah.
Inside. And then I'm like, oh, wow, like I'm just not actually really healed. And then we were on vacation and just like being stupid and doing cartwheels and stuff on the beach and whatever. And like, I just like had pulled here.
Yeah.
And it just like, it really hurt me. Like I was like limping, and I'm like, wow, this is 4 months postpartum and my insides hurt. Like they're definitely not healed. They're not like repaired.
Yeah.
I would absolutely fear if I were to get pregnant that it wouldn't be a safe home.
Yeah. Are you talking to your care providers about that now?
I want to find someone new because I don't want to go to the doctor that was supposed to deliver my baby.
Yeah.
I just don't really feel comfortable. So I think this just happened where I realized that I'm not healed. And
yeah.
Because 8 weeks, I was going to the gym. I was like, okay, let's get like back in shape. And then I was like, this is a little bit early.
Yeah.
Relax.
Give yourself a break.
And yeah, I've just been feeling like the inside is definitely not healed.
Let's talk about your mom. She was there for you, and she seems to be such a big part of your life and like a best friend. How was your experience with your mom growing up? How has she influenced your life?
My mom is the biggest boss babe there is. She was always working growing up. I think that definitely influenced my work ethic and like my life. She's just strong and confident and smart, and she's amazing. But, having a hard, strict kind of mom when you're growing up is like not as fun. But now that I'm an adult and I can ask her all of the things about being a mom myself and, just being an adult, like you're not like mad at your parents like you are when you're a teenager or something. So growing up, I was always like, she doesn't let me do anything. You know, she's always working, but she's the best. And I've gotten so much closer with her since I had gotten pregnant.
Yeah.
And I'm so thankful for her.
Yeah. And she was there the day that you gave birth? Was she with you? Yeah.
So she's also traumatized.
Yeah, right.
Because they didn't let her go into the room, of course. They weren't giving her any information either. So my dad and my sister were at my house waiting during this time and just kind of getting updates. And the way that they talk about it is that my mom had texted them like, we don't know if Amanda's alive, if the baby's alive, anything. So that was really scary for her.
Wow. So looking at your relationship with your mom and how she's impacted you, what do you feel like has been the biggest lesson that she's taught you?
My mom is very big on independence. And, you know, I'm in control of my life and I make decisions for myself. I don't do anything I don't want to do. You know, you're the boss. Like, no one can tell you anything. And that was so important to me. I felt so supported to do whatever I dreamed of, whatever I wanted to do, that I was capable of doing anything in the world because she instilled that in me. And it inspires me a lot. I look at my daughter now and even something little, like if I'm trying to feed her with a bottle and she's not wanting it, then I'm like, okay, you know, we don't have to. Yeah. We don't ever have to do anything we don't want to do. Yeah. We do what you want to do. You know, like I just am so grateful that I got that from my mom. Yeah. To be independent and not dependent on anyone else. Yeah.
That's beautiful. I at the end of every episode, we ask you to share some words of wisdom that you feel were really valuable to you and you feel will be really valuable to our community, the village, to help them on their journey. It can be unrelated to childbirth. It can be related. What words of wisdom would you like to share with our community today?
I guess I could say one thing that I heard that I remind myself of that gets me like through it is you're the best mother for your baby. So when there's times that you feel like you're not being the best mom ever, you know, because we're always hard on ourselves. Yeah. And maybe like you can't figure out, you know, when they're so little, like sometimes you don't know why they're crying and it feels very overwhelming. And sometimes you feel like, oh my gosh, I can't do this. I always remind myself of that I am the best mom for my daughter. And there's not going to be a single person in this world other than her father too. But I'm supposed to be her mom and I'm supposed to be there for her. And if it's hard and I don't do everything perfect, it's okay because I'm her mom. Yeah. And that's the most important.
Yeah, that is so true. That is so true. She chose you. That's so beautiful.
Thankful.
Thank you so much for sharing your story with us today.
Of course. Thank you for having me.
We are so here to support you and serve in any way that we can. And being a mom is the best thing in the world. And I'm so excited for you.
Thank you.
In your journey.
Yes.
You're such a natural.
So fun. It gets more fun every day. Yeah. We have a baby who's finally grabbing things and starting to laugh. And I'm just like, and now I can hold her and not worry about her head too much. Like, it's so much fun. And I can't wait till she can talk.
I know. It's so good when you can have a conversation with them. That's like really the gold. And they make you laugh. My son said to me the morning I was leaving, he was like, Mommy, can you imagine if I was a French fry and I woke up in somebody's mouth? And I'm like, what? And then my daughter goes, Mommy, so many people want to marry me. And I was like, she's
oh my
5.
gosh, love it.
Like it's the best. It's like, they're my best friends, you know? is like your community. Like, I have my friends, but I love hanging out with my kids.
I can't wait. I'm like getting my nails done or like do my makeup, and then I'm looking at her. I'm like, I can't wait till we can do this together.
Yeah.
Or like I go shopping with her. I just love to buy her new outfits.
Yeah.
Like, she doesn't know what they are, but I'm like, one day we're going to go and then you're going to really have fun with me here.
Yeah. It's the best. It's truly the best. So awesome. I'm so excited to see your journey, and thank you for sharing your journey with us and your community as well, and your story, and being so authentic and honest.
Thanks. Yeah, I feel like it's really important to show the not perfect things as well.
For sure. So for our audience, where can they find you?
Your audience can find me on Instagram, TikTok, YouTube. My clothing brand Steele will be relaunching next year.
Exciting.
So that's coming up. But my Instagram handle is at Amanda Steele. My TikTok is amanda.steele24. And then my YouTube is Amanda Steele.
Awesome. And Steele will be available online at steele.com.
SteeleOfficial.com, but the website's down because we're doing a whole rebrand.
I'm so excited for it.
Amazing. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for listening to the Village podcast, where we share unique stories, normalizing conversations and experiences in pregnancy, childbirth, postpartum, and motherhood. We are here to serve, and we really want to hear from you. So feel free to share, comment, like, and subscribe to keep this village growing. We are eternally grateful for you being with us and sharing space today. Until next time.